Welcome to the Money Savvy Parents Podcast, the podcast for parents to gain financial education to then pass on through the generations. I am your host, Laura, mother to 3 beautiful children and founder of a financial coaching business, Savvy Peacocks. Let's remove the taboo from money together. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into my podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'm doing a bonus episode, which I like to do on a monthly basis with somebody that has been in my world pretty much since when I started my business. I met Cheryl very early on in Clubhouse, which I'm forever in debt to because I think what Cheryl does is awesome. So welcome, Cheryl, to the Money Savvy Parents Podcast. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'm really pleased to be here, and it was lovely to meet you in Clubhouse. That feels like so long ago, doesn't it?
I know. I was looking back. I think it was the 6th of January I joined Clubhouse, and you and I probably crossed paths in one of the sort of parenting type rooms, probably with Dale and people like that. So yeah, it's I think we've got a lot to be thankful for with Clubhouse, haven't we? Because it's just opened up our network so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I must admit, I'm not on there enough these days. I think once we came out of lockdown and the kids went back to school, I just didn't seem to fit it into my schedule. Are you still on quite a lot?
Yeah, so I committed sort of mid-February to run a daily room in Clubhouse. And so now we get a good sort of 50 people in the room every day. And we run that every single weekday morning, which is quite nice. It's really exciting. It's called Savvy Women, very in keeping with my brand.
I will check you out because I haven't really been on there very much at all, like I say, but it is great for building connections like you, Dale. I've got Claire Hattrick I met on there as well. Quite a few people, actually, clients too.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's clients too. I've had the same clients, and I just feel like it's meant that business isn't lonely because there's always someone you can go to and talk to and sort of get that conversation going. It's taken social media to a whole different level, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I never really thought about it for getting clients, but I've had mums join in with some of the teen rooms that I've run, or the rooms where we just talk about how to get your kids into business and things. And then later I just see that they've booked on.
Yeah, of course, because they've bought into you as a person. That's the thing. They've heard your voice, they've heard your passion, and so they've bought into you as a person. And you can't portray that very easily on Facebook and Instagram without doing videos. So, you know, for me, it's a win-win. I love Clubhouse. So you mentioned there about clients in your business. So do you want to just share with the audience what your business is?
Okay. I've got a few businesses, just so you know. I've got a big ballet school, but gymnastics clubs, but my latest passion project, which you would have heard me talking about mostly, Laura, is my BizKids Academies. So I'm helping children to set up businesses, which might sound a bit crazy, but genuinely I've helped nearly 100 kids now go through my academy and learn how to create a business. And they can actually do it. You know, they make money, they create websites, they create their branding and logos, and they learn so much. And that's the main thing. Yeah. So
it's interesting that you say people think that might sound a bit crazy, because I've shared what you do in your business with my 11-year-old niece, and she was like, whoa, I didn't even know that was a thing. She was like, oh, funny you should say that, because me and some of my friends have talked about selling some bits at school. And I was like, do you know what, if you're going to do it properly, like sign up with Cheryl. I'll help you out and support you with that, because it's not crazy anymore. You know, anything is within the realms of possibility. And my personal opinion is we are breeding an entrepreneurial future society.
I think also, Laura, the difference is you and I are both running our businesses. So our kids, or like your niece, for example, will be seeing that as an example. So that's not everybody's situation, but certainly my situation is that I've got Izzy, who's my 11-year-old, was watching me. She's been watching me run my businesses her whole life. So they've always revolved around the kids. They've given me great balance in my life. But because of that, she's inspired to run a business. And she came up with her idea, which was very much, it was to run a slime shop. So that's where BizKids started. So we had Izzy asking me, Mum, can you help me set up a slime shop? Me secretly thinking, like, are you serious? Do I really want a slime shop in the house? But I could see the relevance of her learning loads of stuff. You know, like you and I as adults, we've learned lots about, you know, just in the online world, we've learned about how to create stuff online, how to market ourselves online. We've learned about mindset and all these things that you don't learn in school.
Yeah.
And what I've realised is there's a whole massive learning that I've been through as an adult that actually would have really benefited me to have learned as a child. And that's what I picked up with Izzy on with her project of setting up a slime shop. But actually there was a lesson in there for me too, which is that as parents, we naturally want to guide our children a lot of the time. So I might have wanted to say to her, Izzy, do you really want to start a slime shop? How about this idea or that idea or another idea? But instead, I let her go with her idea. And that was the right path. I've learned because she knows her audience. She knows what kids are interested in. Because she was interested in slime, she knew how to market slime to kids like her because she's one of them. Like she's her ideal client, as we would say. She was her own ICA. So she created a TikTok account, Laura. She was very excited because I hadn't let her use TikTok.
All of a sudden, if you're doing it for a business, you definitely can have it.
Exactly. And it just meant I had to put like the safeguarding in place. It was on my phone. There were rules around how she could do it to keep her safe, but she was in her element. She was allowed on TikTok. She didn't have her face in any of the videos, but she was creating content daily. She was targeting customers like her, and she was funneling them to her website. And that's how she gets her customers. So effectively, she's learned how to create a sales funnel, hasn't she?
That's just so exciting. And she's had great success. I've heard you talk about this before. Like, what's her success been?
So she's got over 100,000 followers on TikTok, which, you know, for a kid is like that. Followers are everything, aren't they?
For an adult, that's massive.
Yeah, over 100,000 followers. She's had TikToks that have gone viral. So she's had, some of them have had millions of views, which blows my mind. Wow. But she's even made money. So she's made over £2,000 by the end of the lockdown selling slime. And that is an order for like, you know, $9.99 will come through her website and she'll package it and she'll run it over to the post office and post it. So there's all this responsibility that comes with it. But she's also been on ITV. She's been on Steph's Packed Lunch.
Wow.
Which was like a big milestone for her because she is quite, although she's quite confident or appears quite confident, she's always very shy. You know, like when you go to the school and you watch them do a Christmas performance or something, yeah. You'd be the kid that was a bit awkward, didn't know where to look, and her mouth would kind of distort a little bit because she was really embarrassed. And the fact that she went on Steph's Packed Lunch to talk about her slime shop was just amazing. Like, it was a real growth for her.
Amazing. So not only is she earning her own money, she's learnt loads of new skills that are so transferable to adulthood. It's just absolutely incredible. It blows my mind. It's really amazing. And I mean, what about her? Like, what has it done to her as a person? Like, how has it made her feel? Have you seen a change in her like attitude and how she feels about herself? Because, you know, like 11-year-old, that's like the worst time, isn't it? As a girl, 11, 12, 13, they're the worst years in my opinion. So, you know, what has it done to her self-worth and how she feels about herself?
It's been genuinely, Laura, it's been massive because at the time, so she was 10 when we started this in lockdown, turned 11. She was not feeling very confident because at school, Izzy's always not quite met the mark. And I know that's not it doesn't feel like a nice thing to say, but you are measured at school throughout every stage of the curriculum, and you're measured against the curriculum. So it's quite rigid, you know, and she was constantly told that she was missing milestones, which is the phrase that they use in school. And that was, you know, her spelling wasn't meeting the benchmarks that were set by the education system, and same with her maths. But none of the stuff that she's really good at, so her creativity, like the fact that she makes these slimes is just one element. She's actually really artistic as well. None of her, you know, her persistence and resilience and problem solving skills were really recognised and praised within school, because what she was hearing and the messages that she was receiving all of the time were around the milestones that she wasn't meeting, the boxes that she wasn't ticking on the end of term reports and things. Her confidence was slowly, it was deteriorating. And I could see that from about year 2 when they sit their first SATs through to year 6 she's in now. And when she was in lockdown, she didn't have the support of her teacher. And I did not understand the methods that they were teaching. So I was making it a bit worse as well as a parent, trying to explain, you know, long multiplication or whatever. And the way I'd been taught.
You were doing it how we learnt it in the 90s.
Isn't it? And so I was just making the situation worse. So when she asked to do the business, that suited me because I could teach her confidently. But the difference that I've seen in her is that her self-esteem, her self-confidence, her self-worth, like you say, all of a sudden she's got like Uncle Andrew saying to her, oh my God, Izzy, that's amazing. I can't believe you've sold that many slimes. And then she's got, you know, Auntie Kerry saying the same. And then she's got friends and family complimenting her on her achievements. And she's got that tangible measure, because there's all of these different measures, aren't there? There's the followers, there's the viral videos, there's the sales, and there's the actual income, and all of these things are measures of her success. That actually now she's got friends at school and teachers at school saying to her, wow, Izzy, you know, you've done such a great job, you've been so persistent. She's also learned things like from a personal level that are not just about business, but about mindset, you know, so she's realised that you need to persevere. She said, you know, to other people, so on Steph's packed lunch when she was on, and they said, what advice would you give to anybody else wanting to start a business? Her first thing, and it came really naturally, we hadn't rehearsed anything, it was, don't give up. Keep going, because it will happen. She said, you know, she's only 11 and she's telling other kids, don't give up. It won't happen straight away. You've got to keep on going, you know, keep posting your content every day. It will happen. But she said, I felt like giving up. And then the next day my video went viral. And you think that's a lesson for all of us, isn't it?
That's so true. Like, that's what entrepreneurs need to hear now, isn't it? Like, she should come into my Savvy Women Club and give all of my Savvy Women listeners a, you know, her perspective. So 2 questions I've got from that then. Firstly, do you think then that this stuff needs to be taught in schools? Do you think that there's a place on the curriculum for running a business or becoming an entrepreneur?
I think there's a place in the curriculum for sure, about the fact that you're not just in school to pass exams to get a job, because that's kind of the conveyor belt I feel that they're all on. So Izzy and me, you know, me as a child, I was also on that conveyor belt, going through school, trying to get the grades, need to do your GCSEs. Why do I need to do my GCSEs? Because you need to get a good job. And that's what they're the messages that we're hearing throughout our childhood as we grow up. And I think it's important to start talking to children about the options that they have for their life. I think it's important to explain that you can be financially successful and enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's like a massive gap. There's loads of people who are financially successful that are employed that actually are not happy with what they do. They go to work to earn money, and life doesn't need to be that way. No. There are and choices, and we've all got different skills, but we've all got skills. We all have strengths and we all have development areas, but we are all different as human beings. But there is a place for each and every one of us in the world, and we're all able to be financially stable and financially successful. But there's also this whole kind of mindset around being financially successful as well, Laura.
Oh gosh, tell me about it.
You know, it's okay to want to earn money. It's okay to want to be financially successful. It doesn't have to be all about, you know, it doesn't have to be all about just getting a job. You can aim for more. There doesn't have to be that glass ceiling put above your head, which says you go here, you go here, you go here. Okay, maybe you don't get the best GCSE results, but does that mean it's the end? No, it doesn't. Because actually, what are the things that you are really great at? It's identifying. So in school, if they could identify for all of the kids, all of their strengths, whether or not they're on the curriculum, and offer them the option or the idea that you could be entrepreneurial, you could start a business. It could be viable. I have stories of children and teens that I've worked with where maybe they're very talented artists, for example, and one girl I've worked with, she was a really talented artist, and her art teacher laughed when she suggested that she would start a business creating art, and that in itself can be so detrimental, can't it?
So sad.
I feel like if the teachers were taught about mindset and almost like the coaching approach, that teachers could be also really impacting the children, because that would have really impacted that child negatively. It imposed a glass ceiling. It might have crushed her dreams and her ideas, but actually just approaching those children in a different way. Perhaps that teacher's opinion was that child, that their talent wasn't worthy of earning money, but that could be that teacher's money mindset.
Yeah, well, I actually feel quite strongly about this, because people often say to me, do you think that financial education should be taught in schools? And I believe that there's definitely lots of work to do around financial education, and we do need to raise the subject, because it is a bit of a taboo subject still, money, isn't it? But I believe that if it's going to be taught in schools, that it needs to be done by experts, not by the teachers, for this reason that you're just explaining, because teachers could have their own money blocks. Probably the reason why that teacher laughed at that child is because they've been beholden to that ceiling all their life. They've worked towards going to university, they've become a teacher, and that's where they are, and probably secretly thinking, is this it for the rest of my life? Like, where do I go from here? And, I think that's the same with financial education. It should be taught by the experts so that we can ask those more in-depth questions, but also so that we don't have our own mindset issues, our own money blocks around money, because, we're the experts, we're completely comfortable talking about it. Whereas I think there's very few teachers that would be comfortable talking about it. And it's interesting what you said there about this entrepreneurial spirit. It often comes through with the creatives, doesn't it? I've spoken to a few sort of teenagers, maybe that are at sort of college age, and they're being pushed to stay in college because the government, the system says they've got to stay in education till they're 18. They're so done with it by then, particularly if they're a creative, and they don't want to just sign up to a course because the system tells them that they've got to stay in education until they're 18. But that is really the only choice aside from doing an apprenticeship. But actually, they might have a really great business inside of them. So that's why I'm really excited with what you've put together, because they can come to you, get their business sorted. So as soon as they are out of education, they're ready to fly with it.
I think often what they need is somebody to be saying to them, you can do this.
Yes.
You can absolutely do this. And it's self-belief. And I always feel like at school, there's a fear around saying you could be financially successful. You could run a really successful business. You could be an entrepreneur. It's all about that kind of focus. And what I'm doing is I'm helping them with the steps. But I always say to parents, I don't want you popping your kid on my course because you want them to be an entrepreneur. I want them to come on my course because they're saying to you, Mummy, I want to start a slime shop, or Mummy, I want to start a business, but I don't know what I want to do yet. It doesn't matter if they haven't got the idea. What they need is the desire to go and do their own thing. And it's almost like a leadership role, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I help the kids to take the lead. I just facilitate the journey because I've been in business for 22 years. So I've got loads of lessons that I can share with them and help them on their way. And the other thing, Laura, that I've recognised over the last kind of few months, there's a lot of teenagers that I've been working with as well. And lots of them who are now going off to university. So we've got all of these kids they've been off school now or college, sixth form, for I think it's about 6 weeks since they finished. And they don't start uni until September. But how amazing would it be if those I want to say kids, but they're actually 18. They're young adults.
Mm-hmm.
Those young adults could be utilising this time between now and starting uni, which is obviously a really exciting journey, but they could be setting up a business to support them when they're at uni. So like all of these art students, any students, whatever they're going to be doing, if they've got some ideas, if they've got the drive, if they want to earn some money, they could be working with me to help them set up that business to support them through uni. I've got a few jewelry makers, people that do bath bombs, and there's all sorts of ideas that they have, but they can do it. If Izzy can make £2,000 selling slime over lockdown and she's 11, what could these students be doing around their talents and coursework, maybe, especially the more creative types?
But I think you hit the nail on the head there around the parents piece. Like, yes, the children have got to do it, but the parents have also got to say, this is a choice. This is an option for you. Like, did you know that you can run a business and this is what it looks like? And there's a whole world of opportunity out there. Because I remember at that age, when you're sort of thinking about what's your career and you start talking about your GCSEs and all that kind of stuff, maybe 13, 14, nobody ever had that conversation with me, which is funny because I've ended up as an entrepreneur. It was like, you either do what your dad does or your mum does. There wasn't really anything. Like, they had these career fairs, but to be honest, they were so wishy-washy, they didn't float my boat at all. And so all I thought was, I've either got to be a businessman like my dad, or I've got to be a nursery nurse. And there was no other option there and choice. I'm not saying that's my parents' fault. It's school. There weren't the options available that, it didn't feel like, no one sort of said to me, like, the world's your oyster. You can achieve anything you want to achieve. Like, think big and let me help you get there.
It's those glass ceilings again, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's, my mum, it's funny you talk about your parents and your parents kind of influence your job choices. And I've been really aware of that with my own children, although obviously there's the entrepreneurial journey with Izzy. But my mum worked in a factory, and my mum and dad both worked in a factory, very working class. And their aspiration for me was to work in an office where there would be carpet. I mean, how funny is that? You've got to get an office job because the people that work in the offices have carpet and heating and it's nice and warm. And you kind of think, but seriously, I look back now and I think, seriously, that was aspirational to my parents, was for me to work in an office.
That's
because
hilarious.
It was this warm environment where I didn't have to clock in and clock out. But I just think, that was a glass ceiling put right there for me at the age of probably 15, 16, when you start thinking about, probably younger, when you start thinking about your options.
Yeah.
And thank God, I didn't pay that much attention to those glass ceilings, but I had a job working for Marks and Spencer. I was on the checkout, when you're 16 and you're earning your pocket money.
Yeah.
But the difference was, I saw the managers in their suits and I saw them and thought, wow, I want that job. They had mobile phones. Well, they had these mobile phones and pagers and things, it was back then. And I looked at them, and that was where I got my inspiration from. I thought, no, I want that job, when I was, in my nylon uniform on the checkout putting through the food. And I applied for a management training course, and I ended up being...
So did I? That's funny.
With Laura.
I did it with High Street Bank. So I was on a management trainee program. It was a 5-year program, and I nailed it in 3 years. So I probably should have known then that I was destined for bigger things.
We've probably got really similar skills, Laura, because
probably.
The recruitment process, I don't know if you remember the Marks and Spencer management training program, but at the time it was quite sought after, probably ones, because they were a FTSE 100 company then, and they were classed as like, blue chip company, management training course, all this, but there were thousands and thousands of people that used to apply. And most of them were graduates. So were you on a graduate scheme?
No, I went straight in from 18.
And I wonder if this was the same with your program. When I joined, it was like, if you're a graduate, you can do it in 2 years.
Yes,
if you're
exactly the same.
Trainee, it's going to take you, I think it was supposed to be 3 years. So I had a chip on my shoulder from the moment I joined. I don't need a degree to be able to do it as well as them. I'm just as good as them. So I don't know where this confidence came from, Laura. I really don't, because I was supposed to be working in an office with central heating.
Be thankful for your carpet.
I was trying to be a store manager. But did it in the 2 years, and I did. So I did do it in the 2 years, and then they used to appoint you. So I don't know if they did this. With
exactly the same. So ours was a 5-year program if you're a non-graduate, and then if you're a graduate, you could do it in 3 years, which is why I was adamant I was going to finish my 5 years in 3 years. Same thing as what you said, and then you would get appointed into a management position. So my first management position was over in the Channel Islands in Guernsey, managing a team of mortgage arrangers. They were at the time. That was my first appointment.
We should have chatted before this live.
Yeah, we should have done.
More in common than we realised, because my first appointment was, I was a store manager. So the first appointment usually is as an assistant manager, and they used to like grade you, and you might be an assistant manager within a team in a big store. But they gave me a small store as a store manager, and that was like prestigious. I was like, I got my first appointment as a store manager. But obviously that then went on, and I was then a deputy store manager in a bigger store, and then I was a store manager in a smaller store, and it went on. And I actually ended up running stores for Debenhams. I worked for Debenhams as well in many different roles in their head office, and I had a cluster of stores. I had about 30 odd stores. But in my time, when you managed a store, it's probably like managing a bank. That was my business.
Yes.
So when I managed that store, I managed that profit and loss account. I had an HR manager and a finance manager who worked with me, but I was ultimately responsible for that store, for that team, and for those section managers and sales managers and assistant managers. But that was my responsibility. That was my business. And
I was exactly the same. And I think because I took that approach the same as what you're saying, because I don't think other store managers did the same, because I viewed it as my business, and what would I do if this was it's me that's paying their salary? How would I want to talk to them, or what, behaviors do I need to pull up, and all that kind of stuff? Because I approached it in that way, I probably was thinking more entrepreneurial than I realized.
I think so. And I think, I just think I learned so many lessons going through that journey. And it's really interesting that you and I have both been on a really similar journey, because those businesses that I managed and that you managed have taught us so much. I don't know when you started your Savvy Peacocks business, but
last year.
So for me, it was when I had my kids. So did you manage to juggle the career? And
so what I did was I was pretty much ready to leave the bank after 10 years. I'd got to senior leadership, and I was like, right, what now? My boss is the same grade as me. I'm not quite sure. And I got on the baby train and just thought, okay, I'll just hang out on the baby train. So I had 3 children in 3.5 years. So I was literally like in and out, in and out, in and out. So I ended up doing 20 years in the bank. And then started this business after that, when I knew I wasn't going to have any more children, and there was nowhere more for me to go in the bank. But funny enough, you're talking about all those different businesses. Now I think back at it, and I think about it like that. I did 19 different branches in my 20 years. How much experience? Because every branch is different, isn't it? And every team you run, every different clientele.
Demographics of the town that you would have been in. Yeah,
like Luton compared to central London, for example.
We probably were in the same places at the same time.
Probably.
I could tell you, I've been all over the UK. I had stores in Scotland. I had stores in a lot of them were in the North and the Midlands. So I was all over the place.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? But I think this is why what we're talking about today is so important, because that world that we grew up in our younger years, is not the same as it is going to be now. Because I don't know about you, but my opinion is it was always going to go down this route, but the pandemic's pushed it even further, is that working is going to be very different for our children, because they're going to have so much more choice. Maybe even if they do get an employed role, chances are they're going to be working from home. Therefore, they won't have the commute. They'll have more time on their hands. People are much more aware of side hustles aside from their normal income. And I don't know about you, but I think that's why your business is so important, because I can see that there'll be more and more entrepreneurs coming through because of the world we now live in.
I think it's needed. I mean, the banks and the stores on the high street are dying. As much as I don't like to say it, I really hate to say it, but they are closing. And the kids that are coming through, they just need. I feel like if you can get them the younger you can introduce this to children, the better, because those limiting beliefs set in from a really early age. As soon as us as adults, we inflict these limiting beliefs without realizing that we're doing it, like that art teacher laughing at the student wanting to start that business. Actually, that starts even earlier, and it's about, if we can really instill that self-belief from an early age that the sky is the limit, that they really can do what they like. And it doesn't matter if they're dyslexic, it doesn't matter if they don't fit the academic mold. There are other options. That's, you do your best whilst you're at school, because we're really privileged to have an education system. So I absolutely encourage my kids to make the most of the time at school, but at the same time do your best, but there are all these other options as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point to sort of bring up now. You start people on your program from age 7, right? And I think that's the pivotal age. I've talked about it before in my podcast, because age 7 is the age in which children start to decide their relationship with money. They're picking up on everything to do with the adult world, and they start deciding their own beliefs around adult topics, shall we say. And as far as money's concerned, by the age 9, they're set with their relationship with money. And so that's why I think it's really important that you're starting from age 7, because if they can start at that young age and get on the right footing to ensure that they don't have these limiting beliefs, then that's really exciting for those children. Like, I can't tell you how exciting it is for, our future adults.
I'd love to share a little story with you, Laura.
Yeah, go for it.
There was a 7-year-old, Selena, who joined the very first academy that I ran during lockdown. I didn't know Selena at all. She lives in Kent. I live on the south coast. And she was a really quiet little girl. She used to join the Zoom calls each week, because there's an online course and then there's a Zoom call each week. She never ever spoke. She used to speak in the chat. So she'd do a little, she'd ask a question or she'd pass a comment in the chat. And over the 12 weeks that it ran, Selena launched her business, and she was selling, the kids always call it merch, like #merch. So
so you have to be down with the kids if you're doing your job as well.
But she was selling, so she'd created her website and her branding, and she was selling water bottles and bags and stuff that you order. But when I got to the end of the course, we were between lockdowns and we were allowed to do a photo shoot. So I invited the children, if they wanted, to come along for a photo shoot. And her mum drove her down from Kent so she could meet with the other kids, which was just, she said to me, this has been really special for Selena, because she doesn't make relationships all that easy, and she feels like she's really made friends. So she came all the way down, she met me, and she met all of the other kids, and that was really lovely. Her website was amazing. And I said to her mum, you've done a brilliant job on that website, you two. And she said, actually, Cheryl, I didn't do the website. Selena did it all herself. So she'd created a logo and a branding. And I teach them how to do this through little tutorial videos. And then we work on it together in the live group. But I didn't really think a 7-year-old would be able to do all of it by herself, apart from connecting the payment gateway, which her mum obviously needed to be there for. But she did. She said, no, she followed your video. She said, I was told her I was doing it with her. And she said, I left the room to do something. I came back in and Selena was like, no, mummy, I've done it. And I've done this. And she was stopping and starting my videos to show her how to do it. And then she worked it all out. Now, can you imagine at the age of 7, what that sense of achievement would do to self-belief? So if you had any self-doubt, or you were lacking in confidence, or you didn't really think you could achieve something, if you were that kid at school that perhaps wasn't meeting your milestones like Izzy was, just by going through that journey of achieving the goal of, so their goal was to create an e-commerce website and to sell their products. And by the end of the course, she'd done it, and she'd done it herself at age 7. I just think that was when I knew that was like my beta launch, if you like. That was when we were just testing it all out, seeing if this idea had legs. And that was when I was like, no, I need to get this out there for more kids, because it's special.
Yeah, it really is special. And it's moments like that just go when it just blows your mind, doesn't it? I mean, well done, Selena. That's amazing. That's so good. And, it just proves that our children are probably far more capable than we realise. We just put that number on them. Oh, they're only age 6, they're only age 7. But actually, give them the skills and the encouragement to do it, and they really can achieve far, far more than we give them credit for. So yeah, it's amazing. Cheryl, do you want to just share with the audience, like, when's the program starting? How can they sign up? How can they find you? Because I think this is great for anybody out there that's listening that wants to do something different with their kids.
Okay, no, that's cool. We're on Instagram and on Facebook as BizKids Community, BIZKIDZ Community. You can catch us online on the website, which is bizkids.co.uk. So again, BIZKIDZ. But the next course launches on the 12th. So that's next Monday.
Yeah.
And we've had some bookings coming through already. I've got a course, it's going to be on a Monday evening for the live sessions. Just so that you know, there's these live sessions, okay, and I love the live sessions because that's where I get to kind of recap on the content with the kids and catch them up if they've missed anything or if they need any help, and then they work in breakout rooms. So that's when they build their little relationships. They get to know each other, they help each other, they share what's working, or they ask for advice on, you know, logos or business ideas or whatever. But not all kids are comfortable in that environment. So I've also got an online course so they can watch the videos and do the workbooks and not come on the live calls. They don't have to do that. Or they might come on the live calls and never open a workbook because that's just not how they learn. And that's why I would say that this is, I think we used to call it a blended learning approach when I was back in working in corporate, but it is a true blended learning approach. And it's not, I will never say to the kids, have you done your work? You need to have done this, because I'm just providing the tools to help them on the journey, and I will just deliver the content to them and I'll be there to help them and support them, but I will never put them under pressure to do anything for me. They're doing it for them. It's a bit like treating them as adults. I don't know if you remember, for me, it was when I went to college. I remember the teacher saying to me and to the rest of the kids on the course, you're here because you want to achieve this qualification. If you don't want to come in, that's up to you. And I remember that actually I never took a day off. I was always there because I wanted the qualification. And I like to think that the kids are the same. They want to start that slime shop or that jewelry making business. So they turn up.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that, Cheryl. Thank you so much for sharing. So it starts on Monday the 12th. It's going to be Monday evenings, but they can watch the online videos. And how long does it run for?
It's actually 13 weeks. So it's 3 months.
Yeah.
But again, they don't have to turn up to all of it, and they keep it forever. So the course is always there. They can revisit it with other ideas as well. I'm also going to be launching something after this for the uni students that I touched on earlier. So if you've got an 18-year-old that's in that gap between college and sixth form and starting university, I've got something coming for them as well very soon.
Exciting. And for my audience members, I'm actually going into Cheryl's group to talk to her children that are on her program all around money mindset and getting some structure around what they can do with that money once they've earned it, which is really exciting. That's a nice little Brucey bonus for anyone that signs up with you.
And I really appreciate that, Laura, because the kids genuinely, if I think about my experience with Izzy, she's wasted a lot of that money. You know, she's earned a lot of money. And I think if we can teach them to invest their money wisely and work out how to manage their money, that would be a massive bonus. So thank you for that, Laura.
You're welcome. If you can send me the links, I'll drop all of the links in the show notes, and people can get in touch with you directly through that. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I loved having to talk to you and understanding all those other things we've got in common, as well as our opinions around the entrepreneurial spirit that's going to come through society. So thank you so much, Cheryl.
No problem. Thanks, Laura.
Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Money Savvy Parents. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please subscribe and post your money questions within a review for future episodes. If you want to learn more, then please join my Money Savvy Parents Facebook group or club on Clubhouse. Let's remove the taboo from money together.